Hi, wanted to bring you to our facility where we are manufacturing the Core Care product. It's brand new, beautiful facility, and we are going to go inside and talk with some special people, some guests that we've invited to tell you and inform us all about omegas, about Core Care, why it's beneficial and how we can use it to benefit and improve our lives. Hello, I'm David Casteller, Chief Marketing Officer of Zennoa. Very excited to be here with you today. I've got two special guests that I'm excited to talk with today to explain and help us understand a little more about the benefits of Core Care and the genesis for this wonderful product that we're excited to offer. I'll start with you, Riley. We've got Riley Alexander. He has been in formulations for natural products for over 10 years. He is also a master herbalist as well, and formulates everything that you can think of. He's very, very, very skilled at this. And I've also got Scott Forsberg. I'm very excited to have Scott here with us. Scott's a master formulator and formulist. He's been in this industry for 30 years and brings with him a wealth of knowledge, really one of the best in the world. And so he has helped with this formulation. Very excited to have him and explain the genesis of this product, like I said. And why don't we start with kind of the history of fatty acids and fats, because we hear all the time you shouldn't be having fats. Everything says no fat on the label. I mean, why do we need to take a fatty acid-based product? I mean, why do we need this?
So back in the 1950s, the U.S. federal government decided that they were going to do something about heart disease, which has always been the biggest cause of death. So they kind of had a war on heart disease like we now see a war on cancer. A lot of the data that they used to base their decisions actually came from studying young men who had died in the Korean War. They autopsied these men, and what they found was that there were indications of coronary artery disease even in men in their 20s. And they examined it further, and they found cholesterol was lining the arteries. And of course, cholesterol is made largely of fats. So they looked at that, they looked at the cholesterol, and they kind of made this logic chain, which basically said, oh, we must be eating too much fat. And as a result, food companies and the public in general started to shy away from fats. Foods that were high in fats, like avocados, nuts, all these kinds of things. You weren't supposed to eat those, or if you did, eat very little of them. And instead, they started eating other things which still tasted good, and the food industry found that instead of using fat to make things taste good, they could use sugar. So all of a sudden, for about 30 years there, we had very low fat but very high sugar in our diets. And unfortunately, what we know now is that that's as much of the problem in heart disease in particular as getting the wrong kind of fat might be. But in addition to having the problem with heart disease, when you remove fat from the diet, and fat is one of the things that you need just as much as you need protein or carbohydrate, when you remove fat from the diet, and you end up only getting fat that's in there as a processing aid or something to provide texture or in some other way kind of enhance the flavor of the food, you miss a lot of the other nutrients that are found in foods that are also naturally high in fatty acids. So all of these other accessory nutrients, micronutrients we call them, things like beta-carotene, which is part of the vitamin A family, or tocotrienols, which is part of the vitamin E family, you stop getting those in your diet as well. So people are not only deficient in high-quality fats, they're also deficient in important micronutrients that are part of high-quality fatty acid-rich foods.
So can you explain a little bit why, I mean, this is a full spectrum, omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
Right.
Why would a product like this be beneficial, and why should someone take a 3, 5, 6, 7, 9 rather than just a one omega type product? Why is it important to have a full spectrum omega blend?
So that's a really good question. Most of what we know, just in the public in general, or what we hear about is fish oil, because fish oil is naturally high in omega-3s. And omega-3s are relatively hard to come by. We don't get a lot of those in our diet. Unless you're somebody who eats a lot of flaxseed, for example, you won't get much. What we generally get is omega-6s, and unfortunately omega-6s, if you get too much of them, it can actually cause your body to have a lot of inflammation, or it can lead to greater levels of inflammation, where omega-3s in general kind of help prevent inflammation. So that story's become very popular. A lot of people know about it. But what they don't understand is that there are plenty of other omegas, and those other omegas also have a role in the body. So by just emphasizing omega-3s and demonizing omega-6s, we do a great injustice to omega-9, which is found mostly in olive oil, for example, or omega-7, which is found in macadamia nuts, but even more importantly in higher quantities in sea buckthorn oil, omega-5, which is found in pomegranates. And all of these the body uses for different tissues, different systems, and different purposes. So you can't get too narrow in your vision. You have to eat a wide variety of things to get all of the nutrients your body needs.
So let me move to Riley real quick, and just, can you give us kind of from a high level why someone would want to take this product and what benefits you really see?
Yeah, I think it's a really good product as far as it addresses the balance of the fats. As Scott mentioned earlier, fats aren't necessarily the villain that we've made them out to be in the past. In fact, they're quite the opposite. I think the key is getting the right types of fats in the right balances, and I think this is where that product shines. You've got certain ratios with certain fats. When you get too much omega-6, like we've mentioned, the body responds in inflammation. Where if we get the correct ratios of omega-3 to omega-6, then we actually do the exact opposite. The other things is, too, to kind of consider, our body is made up of trillions of cells, and these cells combine to form different types of tissues, and these tissues form different types of organs. And so science would have it, as they've discovered, that these tissues, to get healthy cells, they need essential fatty acids. So it would make sense then to come to the conclusion that maybe to support overall health, overall tissue, overall function of the body, we should start at a cellular level, and that would be addressing the body through a balanced and correct balance of omega 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, the whole spectrum, particularly the essential fatty acids and fatty acids.
Riley, let me ask you, we've got ingredients from all over the world to make this product, and you were involved in some of the sourcing and helping us with this formula. Why did you go to somewhere like the Himalayas? I mean, you can get sea buckthorn other places, and the Arctic Sea for our cod oil, Israeli pomegranate, USA for the cranberry. I mean, why did we go all over the world? I mean, why didn't you just find it in the cheapest places?
It's a really good question. I'm glad that you asked that, and I'm glad that companies like you do that. Just like with everything, with food, with ingredients, with cars even, you can get good, better, best wherever you go. With the Arctic Sea, as you know, fish oil is becoming a big thing. It's becoming more and more popular. But there is always a good, better, best sourcing. We use an MSC certified cod oil, which ensures that it's eco-friendly, ensures that it's a sustainable practice. It's produced in an eco-friendly, state-of-the-art facility in Norway. As far as sea buckthorn, that is from the Himalayan area, that grows at a higher altitude. And so what we've found is that different harvesting methods, different processing methods, different altitudes and climates and heat, everything plays a role in how they react, what kind of chemicals and compounds they produce, and their overall quality.
Great, thank you. And Scott, let me turn back to you if that's okay. Riley has just told us that, look, we've sourced this product from all over the world to get the best. I mean, we're going to the best sources that we know of. But going back to the individual omegas, why does someone need omega-9?
So a lot of the omegas, you know, if they have to, they can pinch hit for another omega, meaning that you can get by with using something the body probably wouldn't use preferentially if it were given the choice, but could use anyway. You can use omega-6s, for example, to make the sebum that comes out of your tear ducts and helps lubricate your eyes, but it would rather use omega-3. Now, in the same way, omega-9s play a role in membrane development. I really like what Riley was saying about cellular health, for example. So if you look at the cells of your body, every cell has a protective layer around it, and that layer is made primarily of fat. So what goes into that fat layer can be made of all sorts of different fatty acids, but in certain membranes, the body really likes to use omega-9s. It also likes omega-9 for heart health. It likes omega-9 for skin health. You'll find that in certain tissues and layers of the skin, omega-9 is preferentially deposited. So the body, if it can, will use omega-9 there to provide more supple skin and a better skin structure. And each of the omegas has, you know, a role to play in certain tissues where it likes to reside. So skin is probably the primary one for omega-9s.
Scott, let me ask you now about the omega-7. Riley has said that our omega-7 really is coming from the best source in the world, the high Himalayan mountains, and we've talked before about the sourcing of that product and how it's hand-picked. This is a very, very good product that's facilitated through these wonderful people that go up in the mountains. They pick them by hand and they bring them down, and we extract that oil. But this omega-7, I mean, why you don't hear about omega-7 very much. And the things that I do hear is, well, it's good for mucous membranes, it's good for your skin, hair. What would you say about omega-7 so that we can all understand the benefits?
Great. So omega-7s aren't found in a lot of botanical sources to the extent that you find other things. It's kind of hard to get omega-7s. But what we do find is that omega-7s, again, they seem to work really well in certain systems of the body. Now, there's some information on omega-7 and heart disease, just like there is for most of the omegas, but there's really good information on omega-7s and liver function, actually. The liver is where your body decides how to use different nutrients. In particular, carbohydrate and fat, all of it goes through the liver, and it either gets turned into sugar or triglycerides or other energy-producing molecules. There's something in omega-7. We're not sure exactly how it does this, but it actually signals your body to use metabolic pathways that are more efficient and can help you to maintain good muscle mass, a good fat-weight ratio. So it's a better fatty acid in many ways for teaching your liver how to deal with fats and carbohydrates that you eat. Wow. We also find that omega-7s are really good for these secretions that keep your body supple and that they can protect your body as well. So a lot of people find that omega-7 is very good for the digestive tract, where the digestive tract needs to have a constant layer of protective secretions, both to protect it from stomach acid and other digestive enzymes and things like that, but also to protect it from things that are in your food, which are harsh or might otherwise harm the digestive system. So it's really good at that kind of protective layer that your body produces naturally in the mouth and in the digestive system and in the eyes and you know, other tissues.
I've heard that the Chinese word for for sea buckthorn is actually means shiny horses.
It does.
And so is that why, I mean, omega-7, it does benefit your hair, skin, nails? Is that why? Because it goes down to through the liver and the digestive tract, or why do you think that is?
So those secretions and those things that I was talking about that the body naturally makes to protect itself, you know, the biggest barrier the body has is the skin. And the skin, if you don't get enough of good essential fatty acids, your skin will get cracked, it'll get dry, it'll lose its elasticity, and omega-7 is really good at that, and it finds its way through that mechanism into everything that's attached to or part of the skin, and of course hair and nails come directly from that tissue as well. So they benefit from the same thing.
If you could go into a little more depth for us on the color of oils and what color you want your oil to be.
So, you know, I remember as a kid seeing these commercials on television for Wesson Oil, and they would talk about how light their oil was, how you could almost see through it. It was like water, and they would show it next to other oils that had more color, and they would put it on a paper towel, and you could basically see through it. Their whole thing was, you know, it's such a light oil. It has almost no taste, has almost no odor, almost no color. You almost don't even know it's there. Well, that's exactly the wrong thing to do from a nutritional point of view, because all of these oils have lots of nutrients that only oils will dissolve those nutrients and make them available to your body. So we have fat-soluble and water-soluble nutrients in our diet, and the fat-soluble nutrients are found in fats. And if you take it all out, if you take out all the color and you take out all the odor, what you're really doing is you're stripping out all those important phytochemicals. Those phytochemicals, the reason they're in the oil in the first place is because, for the most part, they're protective. They protect the oil from rancidity. They protect the plant itself, many times from like solar radiation. So you see these bright colors in plants, that's because it protects them from the sun so that they don't get too much solar radiation, or it protects them from the environment, or it protects them from predation. They're largely there to keep the plant from being injured or harmed in some way. And they do the same thing for us. They help us also to protect ourselves and to protect our tissues. So our bodies have evolved to the point where they know which of these chemicals from plants are good and which aren't. And if we strip them out and don't even give our body the chance to use it, our body can't protect itself properly.
So going on that same, is that why, I've heard before that sometimes the fish oils that you'll find or the vitamin E is so refined that it's actually not good for you. Can you speak about that? Is that what you found? Have you've seen in the research as well?
So, one of the reasons they refine fish oil is because it's very hard to get fish oil that is fresh. Most of the fish oil comes from what they call small bait fish, and it travels thousands and thousands of miles. The fish themselves may sit there for a while or be frozen and unfrozen continually. And so the oil, when you get it, has already started to go a little bit bad, a little bit rancid. And so what they're doing when they refine it is they're taking all of that stuff out that might be objectionable and might smell bad. That's a different thing than the natural odor and the natural taste that comes in a good fresh fish. Like when you get a really nice piece of wild-caught salmon. You don't say to yourself, ooh, I wish this didn't taste like salmon. That's a good taste, right?
Right.
So that good taste and that good smell, that comes from these phytonutrients that we're talking about. The bad taste is what they're trying to get rid of, and that's because they have such a long supply chain. It's all about mass-produced manufacturing. That's why they refine things. And unfortunately, when they take out those tastes that come from it maybe having been a little too old or not as fresh, they're also stripping out all these other nutrients. So getting really high-quality, fresh sources of things so that you don't have to refine it to make it palatable means that you also get a lot more phytonutrients and a lot more good nutrition.
Right. So that's why the source is so important.
It is.
And the timing, of course. You don't want old cod. You want fresh Arctic cod.
That's right. That's, that comes from cold water that is caught immediately and then processed and made into the product that you're looking for instead of being mass-produced on a huge ship and, staying at sea for days and days and days.
So, Scott, why would someone, can you just explain really quickly why someone would want to take this product as their daily product? We call this core care. Can you talk to that a little bit for us?
Well, if I were to look at one part of most people's diet that they just don't pay enough attention to, it's where they get their fat from and what kind of fat it is. And that's probably the biggest problem in 90% of the diets around the world, is that people just don't get enough and the right kind of fat. So this product corrects that problem. And as a result, people have more energy, their metabolism is better. They're going to find that every cell in your body requires fat to function properly, and so all of your body systems will work better. But in particular, the places where you'll notice it the first and where you'll feel it are in your skin. Your skin will be more supple, it'll be less dry, it'll be less susceptible to all kinds of, those little itches and problems that you can have. Same thing with your digestive system. Your digestive system needs to be lined with cells that are well protected, and they protect themselves largely with fats and fatty acids. So your digestive system will work better. It'll just absorb nutrients better, which of course leads to everything working better. And it'll also function faster. You'll be more regular. You'll have all sorts of benefits that come from just having a healthy, productive digestive system. So those are the two places where people will notice it the first. But it's also a primary driver in heart health. We know that from various studies. We know it's a primary driver in neurological health. So the brain, the eyes benefit from having good, high-quality fats. And there's good information that suggests that it also is important for joints, for the lubrication of joints and the maintenance of joint tissues. So those are the systems you're going to notice it in there.
So going on that, let me ask Scott, why would someone take, so ours is a full spectrum blend.
Yep.
3, 5, 6, 7, 9. Why wouldn't I just take omega-3?
That's a good question. So, I would counter and say, well, why wouldn't you just take one B vitamin? they'll all be vitamins, right? It's because each one has a little different function. The body uses them in different ways. Even though in some ways they're kind of related and you look at them as being similar nutrients, that's not the way the body works. The body thrives on complexity. A rich, varied diet is one of the principles of good health and one of the principles of good wellness. And by getting a variety of essential fatty acids, you let the body choose where to use those and use them in the most appropriate way instead of forcing it to use omega-3 for everything. But it doesn't want that. It wants to use omega-5 for certain things, omega-7, omega-9, and all of them have a different purpose. So having a wide variety of those lets the body use its own natural wisdom to choose which of those nutrients is most appropriate for the job at hand. There's also the fact that by getting a variety of sources of those, so by getting omega-5 from pomegranate, by getting omega-7 from sea buckthorn, we also get all the other nutrients that are found in those plants, and they are wonderful, very valuable, nutrient-rich plants in and of themselves. So when we get an oil from that, particularly an oil that isn't highly refined, you're getting all of that nutritional depth and complexity as well. And you have a variety of those too, which is all for the better.
Our omega-5 is coming from Israeli pomegranate. Why omega-5?
Any of the omegas, as I was saying before, it can kind of do a certain job, but the omega-5s in particular are really good for digestive health. And one of the reasons is because they're a very strong anti-inflammatory. So we know that omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, but it turns out omega-5s are also very anti-inflammatory. So if you look at all of the omegas out there, omega-3 and omega-5 are probably the best at that job. For whatever reason, omega-5s keep inflammation down in the digestive system, arguably the best of any of the essential fatty acids we know. So it's all about making sure that the foundation of nutrition, which is your digestive system, I mean, that's where all nutrients have to go and pass through to get to where they can be used. Keeping that healthy is one of the core principles of what this product is all about. If you have good digestion, you can get everything else.
So you're saying that we should have added one more icon here that said digestion.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that was probably a good idea.
I'm sorry. Well, so go on that. Keep going. I don't want to cut you off. I just think that's interesting. We don't even mention digestion on this product. We have heart, brain, joint, and skin.
Well, when most people think of digestion, what they think of is heartburn and things like that. And it's not really for that. Instead, it's for the function that your digestive system serves, which is as the gateway for all nutrition for your body, right?
Right.
It's the only way that you can get the building blocks for life into your body. So it's kind of the interface between you and the outside world. And if it's not healthy, it doesn't matter how good your diet is. It doesn't matter what you take. It doesn't matter how many supplements you use. You're not going to be healthy because it has to pass through the digestive system first. So it's not about the symptoms of poor digestion that most people think of. It's about optimizing what digestion is supposed to do, which is deliver good nutrients to you and protecting that system.
Thank you. We've called this product, Scott, Core Care, because we feel that it is core and it is essential for everyone in the world. This gives you a full spectrum omega blend, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9 to help heart, brain, joint, and skin. And now you're also mentioning digestive system as well. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about this product or know about omegas in general you think would be interesting and beneficial for us?
Well, you know, we've talked a lot about the difference between macronutrition and micronutrition. Macronutrition being fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and micronutrition being vitamins, phytochemicals, minerals. So things that your body uses to basically keep its function going, but may not be necessarily a big part of the structure of the body, right? What's interesting about this product is that it provides a lot of both. And very few products do that. In fact, most essential fatty acid products that you find have been so highly concentrated, usually into omega-3s, that you'll find that they're 80, 95% DHA and EPA. and the rest of it is some other essential fatty acid. And all of the phytonutrients, all of the other micronutrients that are so important to make your body function well and that have a real purpose in protecting not only the oil itself, but the cells that they come from, those are gone. In this product, that's not the case at all. Ours is a rich, complex mixture of all of the fatty acids that your body wants and needs, as well as the micronutrients that are naturally found along with them.
Scott, can you explain to us kind of the battle going on between omega-3s and 6s and what's going on there and why that's pushed so heavily on us?
Well, there's no question that we get too much omega-6, and that one of the ways to kind of counteract that is by having a lot of omega-3s in your diet. That's true, and nobody would argue otherwise, I think. The problem is that it's created this kind of oversimplified view of what role fat should play in our diet. And it's gotten to the point now where people think that all you need is omega-3s, and that's just simply not the case. Food doesn't contain only omega-3s, the foods that we know are good for us, fruits and vegetables and a lot of very rich sources of not only fat but other nutrients. They contain a wide variety of omega-3s. The reason we get so much omega-6s is because omega-6s are shelf stable, they're easy to produce. They come largely from the most widely grown crop in the world, which is corn. So it's just cheap, easy, and fast to get omega-6s. But the truth is that we neglect all of these other essential fatty acids to our peril. And the reason that we need to have lots of nutritional complexity is not just because we get too much omega-6s, but because we don't get enough of any of the other essential fatty acids, not only omega-3, but 5, 7, and 9 as well.
Our product actually has omega-6 in it, right?
Mm-hmm, a small amount.
3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And the 6 is from the cranberry.
That's right.
So is it bad that we have 6 in here?
So the kind of omega-6 that people are getting the most of is omega-6 that's found, again, in corn oil and what we call warm weather oils. So there's more than one type of omega-6. But the point here is that the omega-6 that's found in cranberry naturally is relatively easy for your body to use. It's in very small amounts, and it's naturally balanced. So we find a natural balance in that cranberry seed, which is grown in colder weather, and cold weather oils in general tend to be better than warm weather oils for us and tend to have better ratios of omega-3 to omega-6 anyway. So it's the natural ratio that the plant uses for its own metabolism, and it's a good natural ratio for us.